brothers. I'm glad to see everyone who's come out here today to stand for the truth, to stand in defense of fundamental rights and human rights and civil liberties. And I'm disappointed to see more than 10 police vehicles surrounding the square we're standing on. Why are they here? Why are the police here? They're here to listen to courageous torture survivors tell their stories. They're here to listen to legal advocates stand up for human rights. Why are the police standing here? What is it that they're so afraid of? What are they protecting? What should they be doing? Well, what they should be doing is demanding an extradition request from Texas. They should be demanding an extradition request to have George Bush brought to Washington, D.C., indicted, put on trial. But instead, they're standing here listening to people who want nothing more than basic justice. In January 2002, the Bush administration announced that it was not going to abide by the Geneva Conventions in its treatment of prisoners of war. And this was a stunning announcement for people around the world, for people in the United States, and for the military, who rely on that for their own personnel. And at the time, everyone thought about it, discussed it, wondered why were they doing this, and now we know the truth as to why they were doing it. We know that the White House counsel at the time, Alberto Gonzales, issued a memo to Bush in which he told him that by suspending the Geneva Conventions, they believed that they themselves would avoid prosecution for war crimes. You can't get greater consciousness of guilt than that. Immediately following that, Jay Bybee authored memos, a memo specifically saying that by extraditing, by rendering to torture human beings in third countries, they could avoid prosecution under the Convention Against Torture. What is that but consciousness of guilt? And immediately after Bybee's memo, they were picking people up and they were sending them to be tortured, to be viciously and cruelly tortured. We learned in the last 2 months the story of Ibn al-Sheikh al-Libi, a man that was picked up by the U.S. government, rendered to torture, and when he was recently found and rediscovered, suddenly died, mysteriously died in a prison in Libya. Yes. And many of us are wondering what happened to that man and why his sudden death. Al-Libi, critically, was the source for Colin Powell's lying and bogus presentation to the UN to make the case for war in Iraq. Al-Libi was tortured to make him say things that the government of the United States, that the Bush administration, that Dick Cheney knew were false, but they wanted cover to fabricate and market an illegal war against the people of Iraq. And so they tortured Libby, knowingly doing so in violation of domestic law and international law, to make the case, to make a lying case for war. It was torture for personal political motivation. We at the Partnership for Civil Justice, also working with IndictBushNow.org, have filed a Freedom of Information Act demanding information about what happened to al-Libi, about why they were torturing him, about what questions they were putting to him. We have made this demand. We intend to follow it in the court. We demand the answers to this because this is the smoking gun for George Bush. And yet, George Bush actually had his associates write their own smoking guns. The memos that were written by Gonzales, the memos that were written by Bybee, the memos that were written by you, all of these are written not because they were actually creating a legal definition or a legal understanding of what they were doing. They were all written to try and defend top administration officials all the way up to the highest office of the White House, to defend them from the criminal acts that they knew they were committing. That's why all of us are here today. That's why people now are going to march on the Justice Department. We are building a movement, a powerful movement that is demanding indictment, that demands accountability. The acts that they took, the memos they wrote, it's consciousness of guilt. It is the standard in any criminal court. It shows their intent to commit crimes. It shows their conspiracy to commit crimes. It shows their plan to commit crimes. So the issue is not, did Did they commit crimes? The issue is there a political will to bring them to justice? And we are here to say yes.